The next thing now is to do a test print. So there's more than likely something on this SD card that came with it. So we'll pop it in the SD card slot. And see what's on there. So we'll go back to the main print. We'll say print Gemini S English. Brush still model files if you want the old. There's video, copy model G-code, mirror model G-code, 2-color G-code data. There's a folder there. 2-color fox, 2-color dice, or 2-color butterfly. Well, I guess we'll just pick the fox. And we'll say go. So I will end up putting this one into a time lapse. I'll zoom the camera in a little bit because why not? And it's obviously heating the bed up. I think we had the bed heated up before, just the nozzles. Oh, maybe the bed's already at 50. Nozzle 1's at 97, nozzle 2's at 97. It's not heating those yet. It's waiting for the bed to heat up first. By the way, that's all down to the G-code. You can adjust that in your Cura profiles to heat both simultaneously rather than heat the... I mean, the nozzles are going to heat up really quickly anyway. But you could heat the nozzles up while the bed's heating too. Bed's already up to 57 degrees. When you're loading filament, by the way, I haven't checked to see whether there's a load filament, unload filament yet, but when you're putting it through, you want to trim the edge of the filament. Use your cutters and use the flat side and cut a 45-degree angle on the filament so that when you push it through, it actually does make it easier to get through. Now I just pulled the clamps on the filament. I think I can see that better on the top one. So when you the adjustment here, you just pull it in the direction in toward the back on this one, toward the front on the other side, and then just push the filament through. It will go through loosely. Well, it's the next day. The model has finished printing, as you can see. Let's take a closer look. It's actually came right off the bed once it cooled down, which is usual for this kind of thing. Anyway, let's zoom in and have a close look. So you can see the actual basic print quality is actually quite good. Took about 10 hours to print. A lot of that is because it had to keep switching heads. That's just the nature of 2-color printing. There are a few artifacts. I noticed that one of the part cooling fans wasn't running, which was the one for the black, and I think that's why some of these fuzzies are here, where there's shorter term and it's shorter time on the job, and it's just pulling little baggies out and things. This model was provided straight off of the SD card, so I did not get chance to render it with the latest Cura or anything like that. I had one minor issue where it didn't stick to the bed. Now, I didn't clean the bed before I did anything. I just took the protective cover off and used it. Everywhere else, it stuck to the bed very well. It was just that 1 foot, which messed up and got into the glue a little bit, as you can see. It got dragged away. A little bit of underhang here. I think part of that damage is, or bad quality, is because the part cooling fan wasn't working on the black. So I'd have to configure a Cura for this printer and redo it if I could find the model to see if that fixes that. But it's typically that's not a fault of the printer. That's just cooling and the type of model it is. It's quite a steep overhang. Couple of other minor things, which is like on the eyebrow here, you can just about see that, but I don't think that either is a fault of the printing. That's just a fault, I think, of the model. I would have to open that up in a viewer to see what it looks like. But I think overall it actually did quite a nice job. The actual printing is quite quiet, but having two extruder fans going all the time does make it a little bit noisier. You know, you just can't hear the motors going as it's traveling. You know, the motors are very, very quiet. So that was all fun. I went to bed and just let it finish because it was going to take too long to happen. So anyway, so we've built the machine. It assembles really, really easy. We've calibrated it. I've shown you how to calibrate the Z height and then adjusting the E2 to match with E1. And we've printed our first test model straight off the SD card. So let me just get the printer out of the way for a moment and we'll have a look at what's on the SD card, and also anything, we'll talk about anything else that might be of relevance. I'm going to take I videoed the entire printing process, but it's about 20 gigs worth of video and about, well, as I said, 10 hours. So I'm going to make a separate video of that and publish it, and I'm going to time lapse it so that it's reduced down to maybe 30 minutes or so. I don't think anybody's going to really watch it all the way through, but you can have a skip to see how well it's printing, and I won't get rid of the sound off of it. So you can have a look, but I'll keep it separate so as not to make this video too long. Build quality is good. Pricing looks reasonable for a printer this size. All the components seem to be well built. There's nothing untoward that I could find. I don't particularly like the way that these ribbon cables are flapping out the side of the printer. You got one on each side here. But the only way to change that would be to put cable trays up the sides, which would be doable, just a little bit extra cost. I mean, it's not a huge extra cost. And, the ribbon cable itself, like flat like this, may not go through it. If you got the space and nothing's going to be catching, it's going to be fine. On evaluation of these nozzles and these little plates, I think what the idea is, I couldn't see it mentioned anywhere, is that when you're not printing with one of these, it will auto park up onto here and it stops any filament from oozing out, which hopefully would reduce any dags and little trails and things like that off of the model that you're printing. So of course the blue one spent a lot of time sitting on top of here. But that's the only thing I can conclude, because it doesn't come off the edge of it. It would really wear down the nozzle pretty quickly if it was doing that. And it just sat on top of here and then came back off again. I noticed that there was very little filament being left on here, and it just seems to be stopping the nozzle from leaking out filament when it's not in use, because it is being kept at the correct temperature all the time. I think that's pretty much everything from this. I'm going to do some trial printing. I'm not going to do it in this video, but I'm going to get some two-color combinations to see if we can take advantage of the dual independent extruder functionality of this printer, because there's a lot of options. I mean, this is just a sample for the little Fox guy that came on the SD card. Mirrored printing, that just means both heads are going to be going together, printing the same model at exactly the same time, just that one would be a left version, one would be a right version. Duplication means, again, you can print two models at the same time, and then you have the single model but dual color mode, or you could also have the single model with support, which would be, say, a water-soluble filament or something that you'd use on the other one. Whenever you're using both nozzles to print, it will take a lot longer, because every single layer that both colors are used, one print head's going to have to go off and park on the sides, and then the other one will come in and do its thing, and then the opposite will happen. This will go off, park on the side, and the other one will come back in and continue printing. So that does add a fair amount of time to the printing time. But if it's a dual colored model you want, and if you're doing it overnight, then that's perfectly fine. It's just the nature of the beast. You can't really avoid that. Even if you had a single head with multiple filaments, a bit like the Prusa multicolor feeder, it would still have to pull the filament out, feed in the new filament, do a wipe on a wiping block, which wastes more filament before it would come back. So that would be even slower. So I think the way that this is happening with this is perfectly fine. The LCD screen seemed very responsive to my controls, and I think the only thing left really is in the manual. aside from looking at the SD card. In the manual, there is motherboard wiring diagrams, layout of the motherboard. It tells you what all the connections are for. So if you ever had to take it out and put it back in again, then it's all there. Failure cause and analysis. And there's a whole section here on using the slicer software. I'm not going to go through every step of it with you because it's a fairly typical slicer. And it's using Cura, I think. Yeah, Cura 4.8. Now, Cura's up to about 4.12. It's just gone on to 4.13 beta right now. So this is a little bit behind, but then you can't expect published material to keep up with every slight change in somebody's product. Anyway, it tells you how to set it up. It's got all the parameters for the machine setting, gantry height, X, Y sizes, etc. It's got the slicer settings for the print head, so it's 0.4 nozzle, etc. Giving you the different print options. So you've got extra fine at 0.06 all the way up to extra coarse at 0.6 millimeter. I'm not sure if I would be doing 0.6 millimeter with a 0.4 nozzle. And a whole bunch of other print quality settings. Now there is a bit that threw me for a second before I realized what was going on. Most of this manual is in English, although there is Chinese or Mandarin writing alongside a lot of it. But all of a sudden there was these couple of pages that were completely in non-English, and I thought that maybe they'd just forgotten to translate or capture those pages, but it's actually a duplication of the 2 pages right before it, so not an issue. And then it's got the slicing method of the 4 printing modes, so it's giving you examples of how to print, configure the slicer for the 4 different versions of models. So setting up for 2 extruders, etc. And it takes you through that process. I'm not going to do that in this video. If you can actually get the PDF, I think, for this document online, would get you the very latest version. So this is just examples of how you would do different things. Now I will make some other videos to show you how to do all these different things anyway, just not in this introduction and initial review. So that's the initial looks and feel of that, except for looking at the SD card. So let me just get this printer out the way of my desk and we'll have a look. So we have the USB driver if you need one. In my case, I did not. I didn't try plugging the printer directly into the PC, but I already have a CH340 drivers loaded anyway for other printers. I apologize for the noise in the background. I have another printer busy printing a long print as a Christmas gift for somebody. We've got Tronxy slicing software, so Tronxy install. Is this a version of Cura? I don't know. Let's have a look, shall we? This software is based on Cura, depth of the secondary development. Supports Wi-Fi wireless transmission, supports print preview. Let's see what it is. It'll probably have a profile obviously already set up for this printer, I would like to think. Anyway, while that's busy doing that, Cura software, so we actually got the actual version of Cura, profiles, and 4.8. As I said, the current one online is 4.12, I think is releasing 4.13 as a beta. We've got all the model settings and stuff like that, so you could probably import this Cura 4.7 profile into the later one, I would guess. I'd have to try that. Single color G-code models to have a look at. The Tronxy software is just based on Cura. It's an earlier version. I haven't ever played with it, so I'm not going to go into it right now because I'll just look silly trying to figure out what the heck they've done with it. We've got single color models, 2 color models, and models for mirroring and models for copying. A video for the filament bag. I'll show you for that in a reel in a moment. They're quite cool. They look like they're food saver bags. As you can see, you just pump away and suck all the air out. So that's kind of nice. The models for the brush. So these are the models that you would normally have with the little brass brush. You can probably buy the brass brushes from a local hardware store and just cut the handles off and just put them in here, and that would probably work fine. That's not what's currently coming with the printer, or the one I've received anyway. It comes with a metal little platform that the nozzle pushes against to stop any oozing, as far as I can tell. That's its purpose now, instead of trying to brush the oozing off onto a wire brush. Maybe it didn't work out too well. The copy model, what's in here? Mirror and copy. Let's just load this up in Cura and see what it looks like. There's probably just one of them because it's for just printing in that particular mode for testing on the printer. So I'm expecting to only see one of them. Yeah. So there we have little Tronxy Martian-y kind of thing. It's G-code, not an STL file. So you would just print one to mirror. Now copying would work. Mirroring would be a little harder to tell because it actually looks like it is already fully symmetrical. So which one was the left one, which one was the right one? Just going to double check that. Yeah, it looks pretty symmetrical. So you're not going to be able to... Duplicating, yes. Mirroring, not so much. Let's go... That's for copying, mirroring. And that was the brush holder we already looked at. Two color models. So the one I printed was the Fox. I wanted to have a look at that anyway. I don't know if the STL files are in here for this, but let's have a closer look at the Fox. Probably taking a little longer to load because it's a big file. Color scheme. Line type. Let's change it to material color. There we go. So I had, oh, guess that's the eyeball printing bit. There we go. Looks a little more reasonable now. So there's no, so yeah, I had a little bit missing on the top of these eyebrows on my model. A couple of bits not quite there, so I don't know whether it, what went wrong there. Might have to double check my alignment. But you can, there's the black. Ooh, interesting. Yeah. So that's the Fox that I printed. It looks quite cute. Would be nice to have Cura tell me what the estimated time for printing it is, but anyway, there is no prepare, so nothing much we can do with that. The other models we've got a dice, and we've got two color butterfly. I don't know how big that is. It's much smaller than the Fox. I'll print these out and put them up as short time-lapse videos for you to see. Looks like one of those models that can flex once it's printed. That'd be interesting to try. Maybe not have all of this support brim around it. It does have a brim, but I'll have to find a model that doesn't have that, because it's a pain in the ass to take off. What else is in here? Single color. So calibration code, articulated lizard, mythical animals, portrait stone, and a vase. Look at the articulated lizard. I kind of like those things. There's a really cool dragon one floating around on the net right now. That looks really, really nice. So you have to print it with a special, one of these multicolor filaments, the color changing ones. Gives it a really good effect. Yeah, so one of those standard lizardy things. Always cool. You could probably change this to print different segments in different colors if you had the still file. Vase is probably just a standard vase for testing vase mode printing, which is usually very fast. You're in vase mode, that's probably where you would normally set up a thicker print, like maybe a fatter, put a 0.6 nozzle or a 0.8 nozzle in your printer. Standard vase, and that's big enough that you could probably print 2 of them in mirror mode if you wanted to. You would just tell the printer that and it would shift it across to here and you'd get 2 of them printed. Very nice. Okay, that's everything from there. Cura software, Tronxy software, drivers, and there's an installation manual on here. I'll find out from Tronxy when the information is going to be available on their website, and I'll put it in my description on YouTube when I publish this. So I think that now covers everything. Oh, practical demonstration of the baggy things. Okay, let's go to that screen. I got one already done here, which my video capture software decided to give me a hard time. So I'd recorded this and it all not recorded. Let the air back in. So these are the bags, and you put your filament in it. You got this little pump thing. Seal up the bag. You can make it go a little quicker if you squeeze some of the air out ahead of time. Don't forget to put your desiccant in with the bag, and then on the corner here you just put your pump. Sorry, is it a pump when it's sucking? I guess still a pump, and just pump away. You can see it's starting to collapse in on the bag. You probably wouldn't do this if you were. You probably wouldn't do this if you were going to be just, being a day or so till you used the filament again. But if you're going to be storing it for a little while, then you can see this is now as good a vacuum as was the packet it was in when it was first delivered. So that's quite impressive. It's probably stretching the plastic a little bit. Just when you take it out, just need to make a note to yourself that it's not a completely sealed one and it is a Ziploc. Otherwise you'll find yourself cutting it to get into it before you realize, oh shit, that's a Ziploc one. Anyway, there you go. So that now is everything. And so what do I think of the printer? I think it's a very good printer, very easy to put together. I think even a beginner can follow the assembly instructions. The alignment of the left and right extruder for a Z leveling the bed and the Z offset is a little more challenging, obviously, than most other printers, but I think it's still doable by somebody that is a little bit mechanically minded, so they're understanding what they're doing. So, and that's what support forums are also for as well, right? But if you've never used another printer before, you can get this one assembled easy enough. You just may have trouble getting the heads set up with reference to each other initially. You can always, if you get one of these printers, you can always fire me a comment through the YouTube, or my email and everything is there as well, and I'll try and help you if I can. The combination of the ground rods for the head, for the gantry rails, which I guess is the X-axis, versus using the V-groove extrusions, which is what the Y and the Z is using, I think gives you that extra bit of rigidity in your entire system for getting better quality prints. Now, I haven't tried benchies and various other things yet. I will be doing that, and I'll put a few little short videos up, just time lapses for some of the different models I try. I'll be trying some double color printing ones, some water soluble filament types of models, and things like that. Website for Tronxy has got plenty of information on it. If I don't do another video before Christmas, have a great Christmas. If it's after Christmas you're watching it, hope you had a great Christmas, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.